The Municipal District of Taber now offers residents the safe and convenient way of watching live council meetings from the comfort of their own home. Residents are encouraged to watch live council meetings every other Tuesday at 9 a.m. by visiting the council meetings live stream page found on the MD of Taber website. Residents can also follow council meeting agenda items and preview all other completed public meetings by visiting our agendas, meetings, and documents page. In addition, residents can watch public live streaming events along with all other completed public meetings by visiting our YouTube channel. For questions about viewing public meetings or accessing any related meeting materials, please contact the MD of Taber Administration Office at 403-223-3541.
Thank you, everyone. That concludes the presentation portion of our AGM. We will now begin our question and answer session. For anyone who would like to ask a question, please post it in the Q&A chat room. And remember to include your name and to whom your question is directed. You may also raise a virtual hand and we will unmute your mic so that you can ask your question in the order they are received. We can only answer one question at a time, but we will try to get to as many questions as possible. With that said, the first question in the chat room comes from Ellen Conrad. She would like to know where they can locate the appraisal schedule for each division. I'm assuming that would be a Brian Badura question or benchmark.
Logan, do you have an answer to that one? Do you know when, do you go by divisions or do you just pick out, like what's your schedule, I guess?
So if you're referring to the reinspection schedule,
yeah,
then it would, yes, it's by division. So that's the plan right now on paper. And we've just started in the north into the in Division 6, and we'll be working our way south as we move along year by year.
Division 4, you would be there when?
That I would have to check the schedule. I don't have that on hand. Yeah, it wouldn't be this year though.
So probably
unless
not this year.
Some development permit or something of that nature taken out.
Okay. Hopefully that answers your question. Next question.
The next question is Keith Yipma. He was just wondering if the solar wind taxes are greater than the loss of the oil and gas, and what the status is of that.
So I believe Brian Badura can probably answer this question with more detail than myself. I can answer it, but I won't have the detail Brian does.
Yes, it's a really good question. So far from what we've received from the assessments on oil and gas property taxes from 2020 to 2021, we've lost about $80 million of oil and gas assessment. This equates with our mill rate to about $800,000 in tax dollars, lost tax dollars, I guess, from 80 million less assessment from oil and gas. What we have gained on the solar side specifically is 50 million in additional assessment, which equates to about $500,000 in taxes. So net between the losses with oil and gas assessments and the gain in solar assessment, we're down about $300,000 in property taxes with that.
Okay, thank you for that question. I hope that answers it well. The next one, Carly.
The next one is actually just a comment. Ellen Conrad would like to say how much they appreciate access to the public live stream to view council meetings, and thank you to everybody for that.
Okay. Is there anybody who wants to raise their hand or add another question into the question and answer box?
Lawrence Barani, I'll just unmute you now.
Okay, go ahead, Lawrence.
Okay, am I live?
You are now.
Okay, that was kind of probably my fault here at this end. Anyways, good evening, everybody. And I got to say, I kind of enjoyed your little videos. They were quite informative and added a little life to the meeting and without advertising too, I might say. But anyways, there was some mention there of that East Horsefly Lake drain project here a little earlier. And I know it's mostly a project between the irrigation districts, but the MD is managing it. And I've got a concern because at that drain also, there's another natural drain that drains a huge amount of land to the south that comes into the small lake and then in through the canal itself. And there's about a 300-foot area there where the canal is open, so this can happen. And anyways, over time, this stream has become larger and larger to the point now where it often, the culvert on 513, or what used to be 513, can't handle it. And the water is forced a mile to the west to the 15-4 junction, and then over on our section 29 and causes quite a bit of flooding. So I'm wondering, I think the guideline on this project there doesn't extend beyond this, the turnout there. But would the MD consider at this time looking at this and considering a bigger culvert on the 513 location? And also, excuse me, maybe some of the road enhancement work such as being done south of Tabor at this moment to further guide this water back into the natural drain. So that is my question for whoever feels like answering it. Thank you.
Yeah, Stuart, do you want to tackle that one?
Sure, I'll give it my best shot here, Lawrence. We can definitely have a look at that culvert on 513. I know we had a chat about that a few weeks back. Another thing that we're kind of looking at too, with the Highway 3 twinning, there's been some drainage studies and some things that have been going on over a little bit further there in that Reliance area, which I think kind of ties into the area that you're speaking about as well. So it's definitely something that's on our radar. I'll definitely have a look at that culvert on 513 and see if we can do anything there. But we're just kind of watching the studies and just kind of keeping eye on some of these changes as they go. And then hopefully we can address some of those drainage concerns.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Carly.
When the next question is from Keith Jones. He was hoping someone could comment on plans for economic development to broaden the tax base. So I'm assuming that would be Brian Badura would probably be better to.
Brian or Arliss.
I can speak to that initially here from administrative perspective, and I will pass the torch to council if any of them want to share some of their perspectives as well. But I do think from a big picture perspective, this is a really good question, Keith. From a big picture perspective, I think we're well positioned to be able to experience some growth that will help diversify our tax base, especially in the context of some of the recent large infrastructure developments that are going to be happening in this neck of the woods. So hopefully the MD can capitalize off of that. A big piece from my perspective in being ready for that, and I guess capitalizing on that, is being infrastructure ready. So we are in the middle of I won't say middle of, but we are in the process of trying to determine where exactly we are in terms of infrastructure capacity to be able to accept additional and new diversified industry. So some of this work has already actually taken place with past staff, i.e. The establishment of water commissions has really helped in terms of ensuring that there's appropriate water security moving forward and positioning us in a better spot for economic development growth. Something that we are planning in the near future here is trying to fill some recent vacancies with more of an emphasis and more of a focus on economic development specifically. So we should be advertising to fill some of our existing vacant staff positions probably within the next week and a half to try to get a little bit of more economic development focus on that end from an administrative perspective. And from that end, I would pass it to council to see if you have any additional views and perspectives.
Okay, I'll try and take a stab, and if anybody on council wants to add into it. With the downturn in the oil and gas sector, we know that we're in an older legacy sort of field, and we're probably not going to get a lot of new development in that area. So we've, had to start looking at other ways of trying to broaden the tax base and attract new investment. I think the Highway 3 twinning will certainly help in that as we try and grow the agricultural food processing corridor that we're part of here. And so it is an important thing that council has talked about. And like Arlo said, we'll be soon looking to fill some spots here in administration with a focus on economic development and leadership in that area. Is there anybody else want to chime in on that one? Brian's going to add.
Thanks for the question, Keith. It's Brian. I think we've got a couple opportunities here. First is the twinning of Highway 3, as mentioned, Merrill, but I think also the increase in irrigation, some of the cropping potentials that are in the area. We do need to look further at this, try to be a little bit more infrastructure ready if and when plants want to come in. And I've had the conversation with you, Keith. It's frustrating to see a lot of these plants end up in Saskatchewan and Manitoba, largely because we're not prepared in Alberta, and maybe to a certain extent our government isn't taking it serious enough either. So lots of potential there. I'm not going to lie, needs work. Thanks for the question.
Oops, go ahead, John.
Yeah, thanks, Keith. I'm in the same boat as both Merrill and Brian here, in the fact that I think we're in a really good position in we've got a provincial government that now understands, I think, the importance and how much we're hitting above our weight class in this area, mainly because of irrigation and because of our producers. And I think with that, I think we just need to, lobby the Alberta government a little harder on how we can, access funding should we have some of these plants that want to come here and maybe create some incentives or something with the provincial government to allow for that. And the addition of a staff member that is more concentrated on economic development would definitely help as well. And I think through COVID here, it's been very challenging. You haven't been able to shake hands and meet people. And I think that's also a challenge. But moving forward, hopefully we can land some of these value-added facilities here in the MD.
Go ahead, Tamara.
Hi, Keith. It's Tamara. So some of the things that we've been doing, and one was even today passing our access to internet and policy so that we can move forward, making sure that people can get to the resources they need. We've also been talking about the importance and value of being able to provide water. We haven't have any conclusion on that, but it has been a topic of discussion and to figure out what would be the best way to get people the water that they need for their plants.
Okay, hopefully that answers that question for you, Keith. It certainly is a topic that is important to council, and we've certainly discussed it in the past and trying to move forward with growing the tax base through economic development, attracting new facilities into our municipality.
The next question is from Keith Yipma. He wants to know if there are new and how many projects or what size of projects coming on board with solar to provide more taxes to the MD going forward. So whoever wants to have
Go ahead, Arliss.
Yeah, initially, I think Brian Pierce has actually been kind of looking at this recently with regard to active development permits. Do you have some of that data on hand, Brian?
Yeah, just pure. Yeah, I've looked into a little bit in the last couple of weeks just to see where we were, and we have about 5 development permits currently active right now, with a combined solar capacity of about 240 megawatts. So quite substantial projects, and they're scattered throughout the MD, east, west, north, south. So yeah, there's I guess if which could generate a relative a fair bit of revenue, I guess, if they were all to be developed, and not to say because they got a development permit that necessarily will be built, but that's what we currently have. And I guess just in really rough terms too, I guess if you wanted to estimate what would a megawatt of generated solar revenue would solar capacity generation would be about roughly $10,000 per megawatt.
So that would be a rough figure. We really don't know though until we receive real assessment. So
that's right, and they're all different too, depending on what type of projects they are.
And there's smaller projects too, and I would just refer to the Renewal project. And I know that that's very small scale, but those are opportunities for reclaiming abandoned oil sites and converting them into small scale or micro scale, whatever, solar projects. And there's 2 that are supposed to go in this spring, one south of Barnwell, one north of Fincastle, and then there's lots of other possibilities in the future with on private as well as on MD owned land to convert these old oil and gas facilities into solar sites. Again, probably not generating a lot of revenue, but it is some. Okay, I think that's the end of the questions. Unless somebody else has any more, you can still raise your hand. You can still type your question into the question answer bubble. Not seeing any. Any questions? Michael has been patient here tonight, staying with us. Any questions on the financials? Not seeing any. Any further comments from our staff? Anything that the staff would like to bring forward tonight that hasn't been discussed? Anything council would like to discuss?
Harold.
Go ahead, Darlis.
Paris, I believe Logan had tried.
Yes. If I could clarify that question on the reinspection schedule.
Sure.
For Division 4, that would be in 2024. And I just want to just add to that the reinspection cycle, again, is just to verify the details. The property will be reassessed on an annual basis. So the valuation can fluctuate year to year without us physically coming out to the property. Thank you.
Thanks for that clarification. Okay, I guess we'll draw to the end of our meeting tonight. I want to thank staff, all of our fantastic staff who give their all to the MD. As you've seen tonight, a lot is going on in the MD, and it's our staff that makes it happen. And I'm going to give a special thanks to this evening for our IT people for finding a way to make this meeting happen. Carly for the videos, Dean and Lace Lutz for coordinating all the presentations. And if I've missed anybody, they're doing high fives over here, virtual high fives over here. If I've missed anybody on staff who's helped make tonight possible, again, thank you for all that you have done. And to those who are online participating in this meeting, if you have any feedback, comments on this annual general meeting, the delivery method, please let us know. Hopefully by this time next year, we're not doing this. But if you just, if you have some comments or questions, you can either text your counselor or phone the office on anything you've seen or heard tonight or how this was presented. We felt after not being able to do it last year, we should do our best to try and make an annual general meeting happen this year. So again, around the table to council, any final comments anybody wants to make? Okay, thank you very much, everybody, for participating, for staff, for those ratepayers who've attended, for Michael and Logan for being part of this evening and presenting what you presented. Have a good evening, everybody.